Me and see me?
Oh
I
yeah, you're
can,
good.
yes.
There was
Yes?
like a
Okay.
little black bar, but you're good.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. So I've decided to title mine Star-Crossed Lovers, a brief comparison of romance trends in young adult literature. So when I originally did the YA reading challenge, I had not realized how many of these books were romance. I tend to read romance that has very explicit titles that'll basically tell you through the description what it's going to be. A lot of these were kind of a romance as a subplot, but yeah, I wanted to see the comparisons. So let's see. We're starting off with Long Distance Love. So we start with 1500 Miles from the Sun by Johnny Garzavilla. Now, Johnny Garzavilla is a queer and Latino writer. He's done a few different books, but this one really, really, I really fell for it. I really like it. So for this one, our main character, his name is Julian, who he goes by Jules throughout most of the thing. Um, he Julian, my beloved. He reminds me a lot of me as a teen. He always wanted to go to UCLA. He lives in Corpus Christi, Texas, and he is in a very, very conservative area. His father is really, really homophobic, and he is Mexican. So a lot of his culture has to do with, and a lot of it in the book is written about how he's struggling with these machismo identities, and he's just not sure if he should come out to his dad. And so one night he goes to a party with friends and he gets drunk and he just posts a Twitter post coming out. And he doesn't think anyone's going to see it. Everyone sees it and it goes around the school. Now, guess who else sees it? Matt. Matt is the guy with the soccer ball. Matt sees it and says, "Hey, you're just like me." So Matt slides into Jules' DMs and the two start flirting. The banter in this book was actually really believable, which is one of the things that drew me to it. It was really believable. It read like two guys just flirting back and forth. It was really nice. And they all in love, fall head over heels for each other. Now, Matt, small problem, Matt lives in LA. So Jules has to say, well, hey, I'm going to go to UCLA. That's my dream school. I want to move to LA. And then while he's doing this, while he's waiting, preparing for college, it's a struggle of, I want to talk to you. I want to see you. I want to comfort you. But you're 1,500 miles away from me. And there's nothing Matt can do to stop Jules' dad from being the way that he is. So to me, it read really believably. It was really, really touching and warm, and it gave me the kind of like butterflies that you get when you read romance, which I really liked. And I really love queer stories, so I picked out a couple others. Red, White, and Royal Blue is a queer romance between an American diplomat and a British diplomat, and again, they are separated by an ocean. Um, these books all feature teens from two different parts of the world falling head over heels. You Say It First by Katie Contugo is another one that I really like. For that one, that's a straight romance, but your main character works at a call center for a helpline for, I believe it's a female health clinic. And your love interest calls in with questions and they start talking on the phone. And she's like, well, this is my job, but this guy is like really cool. And so she gives him her number, and he's from Oklahoma. And they chatted out and ended up falling in love over the phone, which I thought was really cute. I really like seeing the way long distance relationships are tackled in YA literature, especially as we move into a more digital age. Next up, we have Light Lark. I have titled this one At War with Oneself because these are all fantasy romance books. So they all feature an independent heroine, curses, kingdoms, and unexpected love interests. They're full of action and drama. And speaking of drama, Light Lark by Alex Astor received so much drama when it was published. It got very, very viral on Book Talk for both good and bad. And I originally chose this book because I saw so many bad reviews that I really wanted to see what everyone was talking about. And unpopular opinion, I loved it. I thought it was great. So if you've ever heard of Sarah J. Maas's A Court of Thorns and Roses series, Lightlark is very, very, very similar. Now, A Court of Thorns and Roses came out in 2012 through 2016. It really threw the adult romance genre into where it is now. And I feel like this is a natural progression to see a young adult novel take in those fae and battling scenes, take in those rewriting of traditional fairy tales and making it something new. So in Lightlark, we have our main character, Isla Crown. She was raised alone as the leader of these people who have plant magic, right? So we have different types of magic to different kingdoms, and each of these kingdoms is afflicted with a curse. Now, Isla's curse is supposed to be that her people can use plant magic but must eat human hearts to survive. However, Isla doesn't have magic. Now she has to go to the Centurion, which is once every 100 years. This storm passes away from the island of Lightlark, and each leader of each kingdom must go and basically compete to solve a riddle, kind of like the Hunger Games, but they're trying to work together to solve a riddle and restore order, break the curses. And Isla meets these different love interests. She meets Oro, who is the king of the island. He is your to compare it to A Court of Thorns and Roses, he is Tamlin, he is your god of spring, and Grimm, who is the god of the shadows. And she has to kind of say, okay, who am I going to be in alliance with? And then she ends up getting betrayed by her love interest and her best friend. And it is crazy, crazy, crazy. And I really liked it. I could not put it down, and the descriptions, the prose were beautiful. Oh my gosh, they have such incredible descriptions of rich imagery of dresses and ball gowns and knives. It was super cool. I would totally recommend that for any teen who's getting into creative writing to looking at descriptive imagery. Incredible. Now, that brings us to our next two books related to the Lightlark. So we have Twin Crowns and The Isles of the Gods. So Twin Crowns is pretty simple. The two girls in this cover are sisters, and only one of them can wear the crown. One of them can be queen, so they have to kind of battle it out, see who's going to win, who's smarter. Very similar to the aptitude test in Lightlark. Um, and then Isle of the Gods. I really like this one. Isle of the Gods. She wants to go save her kingdom, break some curses, and she needs a ship to do so. The captain of the ship wants a sacrifice. She sees bad boy with tattoos. He sees innocent young lady who would be a great sacrifice. And you can imagine where it goes from there. So we have lots of drama, we have more fight scenes, we have a lot of banter. I think that's a great choice for anyone who likes the banter between Isla and Grimm and Oro in Lightlark. Now, for our last little bit, Written in the Stars, I chose these books because they had very beautiful flowery prose in them, and they were really related to science fiction or dystopian genres. Particularly, the way that they write science fiction is coming from a more female perspective than our typical science fiction books that are very, very rooted in male writing style, which that's a whole other thing. But they all feature characters with unique relationships with sexuality and gender expression, and they must come to terms with their identity now as their worlds are reshaped. So in Light from Uncommon Stars, we have three perspectives, which again we've seen across our course in young adult literature. And we have the perspective of Shiuka. Shiuka Satomi, she is known as the Queen of Hell. She is a violin instructor who has made a pact with a demon, and she has to sacrifice six people, six musical prodigies, in order to save her soul. Now she's on, sorry, seven musical prodigies. She's on six out of seven. She decides to go looking for another prodigy, and that's where she meets our second main character, Katrina. Katrina is a trans woman who ran away from home because her father was super transphobic and abusive, and she is currently busking on the streets playing violin for money. And those two meet. She starts getting tutored by Satomi, and she's like, okay, perfect, I'm ready to break this curse. And then Shizuka Satomi meets Lan Tran. Lan Tran is an alien who has fled her home planet through a stargate and is now working with her four kids at a donut shop. And at first, they don't know how to make donuts, and they're crummy. But then they become incredible as Lan and her family devote themselves to making the donuts. And Lan and Satomi start talking and start flirting, and we end up having a lesbian romance between Suzuka Satomi and Lan Tran. And she realizes maybe I shouldn't be sacrificing musical prodigies to this demon. Maybe I shouldn't be doing that. That's not the most ethical thing. And yeah, it's really, really cool. I really enjoy it. There were a few people who said the pacing was a little odd, which I get. Towards the end of the book, it's the pacing's a little strange, but I really like it. I would recommend it to anyone who wants to laugh and cry in the space of one book. It really reminded me of the different plots reminded me of different books. So Lantran, her plot really reminded me of The Best of All Possible Worlds by Karen Lord. So Karen Lord's Best of All Possible Worlds has two perspectives, two main perspectives, one of a human anthropologist, and the other of an alien species who has just had their planet absolutely destroyed while these people were on a science mission. So now they have to figure out, okay, where do we put all of these people who are now refugees? So they go tour a bunch of different planets, similar to what Lan is going through, and eventually they fall in love as well. The anthropologist and the refugee fall in love. It's very cute. Um, Also, Satomi's story reminds me of The Anatomy of Curiosity. The Anatomy of Curiosity is a book by three different authors, Maggie Stiefvater, Tessa Gratton, and Brenna Yovanoff. And this book has three distinct storylines inside of it. And it also shows you on the other side of the story the author's direct thought process while they were writing it, scenes that they've scratched out, what they thought, here's our message of this story, here's what I thought about Maggie's story, here's what I thought about Brenna's story. They go back and forth and have an active conversation with the reader. Now, the final story, well, one of the final stories, I believe by Maggie Stiefvater, is a story in which we have this elderly vampire who knows she has to kill in order to survive, but she knows she's dying. In her final meal, she wants to eat something that tastes incredible. She wants a very cultured, artistic person as her final meal. So she meets this girl who keeps reciting Shakespeare. She wants to read poetry, but she has a stutter. So she hires her as a housekeeper and to read to her. And as the girl reads, she gets more confident, more confident, more confident until she can speak with no problems. And the vampire lady realizes that I want to eat you, and but she realizes at the same time she struggles just like Stomy with, I know that this is something that I should do and that I want to do, but I love you enough to say that I would rather die. And I thought that was really touching. I definitely think that those are both books that students should read if they're interested in creative writing, if they're interested in exploring those subtopics and subgenres. And yeah, and those are my sources. I don't know that I can stop the share. There we go. Awesome.
I
That
love how you always, oh wait,
no, you're good.
yeah. I love how you always like stick your books in context.
I
Like
try.
it feels like, yeah, it feels like you have a very good grasp of like what the landscape looks like, what other like how is this book responding to like this other book? Like, connecting like, this like well like I'm going to say like it's marvelous to connect like A Quarter of Thorn and Roses, and it's like it's not one of the most popular books of the past decade. So, but
Mhm.
like you can like connect that to like into this genre. That's great. I wish I could do that of books. Definitely not books. Not at that level yet. But I find myself marvelous you can do that.
Yeah, I really liked how you grouped them all by like a certain theme or like I felt like that was really helpful and like seeing the connections between the three of them. And also your book selections were just very like interesting. Like that anatomy of curiosities, I just
Curiosity.
like wrote that down because that sounds like a really cool book
It's
to
super cool. I love it.
yeah, and it's YA and it's just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that's
So,
so cool.
Maggie Stiefvater just released her very first adult fiction. Everything else she's been writing is YA. And then yeah, they three of them got together and were like, everyone's always asking us at conventions, how do you write? Like, what do you get you through writer's block? What gets you this? And they're like, we're gonna write it down and have stories within it. And I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, and Maggie Stiefvater is from Virginia, right?
Yeah, yeah. I've actually met her in person a couple times
Oh,
at the cheese shop
cool.
up in kind of near Farmville, near Charlottesville. But yeah, she moved recently, so
It says Shenandoah Valley, Virginia, according to our Goodreads page.
yes.
So
And certainly you show the how these books have made you feel. And I appreciate that you speak about that you love the romance, for example, or, that you thought that this was very descriptive. This is a very good book for creative writers. I thought that those things, as a librarian, would be very engaging to the receiver of the information, so that they could say, oh, because she said this, then maybe I can take a look at that. So that was very good connection from that standpoint too.